Good afternoon and welcome to the third and final installment of the IRU-POLIS webinar series on decarbonization of heavy-duty freight transport. My name is Holger Lohndorf. I'm with IRU. I will very briefly introduce today's webinar, and we'll start with a very brief introduction of why we're doing this in the first place, why are IRU and POLIS cooperating. The reason is very simple. We both work in related and complementary fields with related and complementary branches of the logistics industry, if you will. And while we do have slightly different shareholders, they do eventually share common interests in building a decarbonized supply chain from, as we called it, long haul to last mile. And so we thought it is essential that we bring together as many different stakeholders as possible for an event like this and for a webinar series like this in order to exchange views, have frank and open discussions about what has been done and what still needs to be done in order to advance the decarbonization of transport, especially road transport. Having said that, this is what we've done so far. We started with relatively general overview of the entire heavy-duty landscape, if you will, with transportation and logistics. We then moved on to the slightly more complex peri-urban environment where long haul meets last mile and where oftentimes one type of vehicle is exchanged for another as we move along the transport chain. And now we finally reached the point where we need to talk about the third dimension, if you will, or the last piece of this complementary puzzle, which is the actual energy infrastructure, without which none of this would work. So this really is an essential webinar today to discuss what actually fuels the movement of goods across the entire European Union and beyond. As a very brief illustration of again, why we're doing this and what we're doing here, I mentioned we're trying to bring together many different stakeholders, and that means also many different stakeholders from different sectors. So this is a good cross-cut of who we have had and who we will have today in our webinar. We are talking with industry, we're talking with universities, we're talking with governmental organizations, and we're talking with all the different partners and to the different partners that are involved in a variety of European Union research projects that you see at the bottom of your screen. So again, the idea is to basically connect the entire landscape or the entire universe of road transport in order to find out where the gaps are, where the challenges are, what the accomplishments are. And today's meeting will be no different. A few housekeeping rules before we move on to the agenda. This webinar is being recorded. If you do have questions or comments specifically to, let's say, a presenter, feel free to post them in the Q&A function of this platform. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a series of icons. One of them, Q&A, is where you can post comments, and during the meeting, we will try our best to address those questions and comments. And we will then have all the webinar recordings. 2 are already available, but this third one will also be made available on the POLIS Network's YouTube channel and, of course, the relevant websites of our organizations. Finally, let me briefly go through the agenda. We will have, following my brief spiel here, we will have 3 presentations, beginning with the presentation by Frank Meyer from Total Energies. We will then move on to a presentation by the University of Surrey with Prima Frio. And Prima Frio before moving on to a roundtable discussion. The roundtable discussion is really the meat of this event. This is where we really hope to receive not just the input from the presenters, but the input from you as our audience as well. And now that my 5 minutes are up, I would like to move without much further ado to the first of our 3 presentations. So, Frank Meyer, floor is yours. Please feel free to proceed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Holger. Yeah, my name is Frank Meijer. I work for Total Energies as the Hydrogen Subsidy Coordinator. And in that regard, I would like to introduce the H2Accelerate Trucks project, but also yeah, show a little bit more on our infrastructure and the developments that we are doing. So maybe we can go to the next slide, Ted. Yeah, so I'll try to cover also looking back a little bit to, oh, okay. So the agenda indeed is to introduce Total Energies, but also Teal Mobility. Then explain a little bit what the H2Accelerate consortium is doing, and then specifically also to give some details on H2Accelerate trucks. And next slide, please. Yeah, so most of you will know Total Energies, and Ted, can you click twice more, because then all the rest of the fields will also come in place. Yeah, Total Energies, 100 years in existence since last month, so quite an old company, but going through a major transition the last couple of years from a traditional oil company to really being net zero by 2050. As you can see in the center of this is hydrogen displayed. So we are really diversing into more renewables and really to make sure that we are becoming net zero by 2050. One of the elements is hydrogen. So if you can go to the next slide, Ted. Hydrogen is something that we have been quite long involved already in. So it's not that we are just starting on deploying hydrogen stations in the field, but already the first hydrogen station we deployed in 2002. Some people think it's long. On the other hand, if you look back to over 100 years ago, because if you look on that we are only existing now 100 years, the car was around already a couple of years longer, and it gives also a good reflection of what the parallel is between the conventional fuels and these new mobilities. Because it also took 2 decades before, after the invention of the car, that an infrastructure really was being built up. And that's something that is also happening now. I mean, it takes quite a long time to really establish this new technology and get stations in place. But just to also reassure us that we are really working already in this field for quite a bit. Having first bus stations, also based on the refueling combustion engines. And now we see that there's an acceleration going on also with the requirements specifically of truck OEMs to reduce their CO2 footprint, which cannot only be done by electric buses. So if we can go to the next slide. Within Total Energies, we have defined 4 main pillars. One is to develop a European truck network, which is recently launched as Teal Mobility. The second one is H2 Mobility as a joint venture partner, which already operates almost 90 stations in Germany, mainly for light-duty vehicles. Then there's a company called HySetco in France, where we are a joint venture partner in, operating a couple of 100 vehicles in Paris, taxis and light commercial vehicles. And they are also ramping up their volume on when it comes to light vehicle usage of stations. And the fourth pillar is off-road. Not relevant maybe today, but also gives a little bit of view on combustion engines for construction, for example, which are quite getting more and more important to get them also on hydrogen or on alternative fuels. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so when we look to the hydrogen refueling station, we currently operate already 27 hydrogen stations, being it hosted on public stations by H2 Mobility, and already 6 stations within Total Energies. And once again, for the joint venture Teal Mobility, the objective is to launch 100 stations in the next 10 years, which is a substantial investment to also enable trucks to refuel in Northwestern Europe. And then we'll move over to the part on Teal. So Ted, can you go to the next slide? and then also skip this one indeed. Yeah, so last year, and it has been already almost 2 years in the making. So last year in January, we announced the creation of or of the joint venture between Air Liquide and Total Energies. Of course, Air Liquide being one of the most important players when it comes to hydrogen and production of stations, and Total Energies being a major player in retailing of fuels, and combining these two elements together, and also with a commitment to deploy 100 stations in Europe over the next years, should bring also give a possibility for logistic companies to have a safe and secure field of refueling in Europe. Can we go to the next one? And if you look then to the development, it's not that we are just starting. Of course, the joint venture has been recently created. The headquarter entity has been incorporated 2 months ago. But we are also taking all the projects from Total Energies and from Air Liquide into this new entity, meaning that we have sort of a flying start with already 20 hydrogen stations being operated by the end of the year, and another 30 projects under development, which will be deployed over the next 3-4 years, meaning that even though this 100 stations in 10 years sounds quite ambitious, it also shows that we are already committed to it. We are already involved, and we don't have to start from scratch, because that would be then quite a challenge to start from scratch. The focus area for the moment is Northwestern Europe, so Benelux, Germany, and France. On one side, also because we see with electric mobility that the focus currently is in that region, and secondly, because also our traditional footprint is more oriented to that region. Yeah, then moving on to H2Accelerate and H2Accelerate trucks. So for those who do not know this, but H2Accelerate is a consortium of 3 traditional oil companies with a big focus on hydrogen, and of course 3 traditional truck OEMs who really want to develop together, because we always talk about the chicken and the egg situation. If you want to have trucks, you need to have stations. If you want to deploy stations, you also should know in which locations the trucks will be supplied. So we are really trying together to also trigger commissions and the different ministries to provide subsidies in the beginning to support projects that we want to run. So we want really to see and find public support. We also jointly communicate with policy papers and white papers to different entities, and publicly showing what we would recommend on ministries to do. And of course, try to have a discussion on sharing what's happening in the different markets. Please, next slide. Yeah, so the commitment of the project partners is really to invest on the production of equipment of refueling infrastructure, and of course also making sure that the truck OEMs are capable of deploying the vehicles, because that's something that keeps on popping up also with electric mobility, is that truck OEMs can only afford to sell the trucks to their customers if there's also a good infrastructure in place. This next one, and then we move over to H2Accelerate trucks. So last year, H2Accelerate trucks was awarded with the funding for 150 trucks. And we really try to collaborate as good as possible with the 3 truck OEMs to see where we can work together, in which locations we are planning or already having stations available. Because it's quite a challenge still, because the cost of the truck is high, the cost of the hydrogen is high. So really to compensate partly the additional cost of the truck with this project is really, really helpful, giving at least the the capex of the truck a good shot on being not break even, but giving at least the possibility to quite a few clients to, in this phase, still test the trucks in their operation. Yeah, if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, then what I said before, the famous chicken neck part, our contribution to H2Accelerate, specifically to H2Accelerate truck, is that we also have two projects that we are running in this under the same umbrella, basically. The first one is done by Shell, H2Accelerate, basically 8-station funded project, and the second one is part of Total Energies, where we have received funding for 12 stations to be operated in the next 3.5 to 4 years. And in the third bullet point, you can also see that those really have been focused on heavy duty trucks with minimum of 1 ton per day, close to the 10T corridors. Yeah, and then of course, what I've said before, focus on the Benelux, Germany, and France area. So that was basically my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank, and sorry for the delay. There is apparently some delay in changing slides, but it's now the time for ESCALATE project to be presented by Mrs. Ahu Hartavikarsi. So Ahu, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thanks to Polis and IRU for this kind invitation. And I think it was a very timely, scheduled webinar. And also it is nice to see Frank's presentation. There are so many commonalities between the projects, right? So let me briefly introduce you the ESCALATE, perspective for the future energy infrastructure. If you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, let me briefly introduce you what is the ESCALATE project. Actually, I'm the scientific and technical coordinator of the ESCALATE project. And the project started on the 1st of January 2023, right? We are just reaching the first review period for our project. Its its budget is around 20, the funding is around 22 million. And also, we are composed of 37 partners from 13 countries with more than 150 experts involved in the project. And I believe which is one of the main strengths of our project. And the aim of the project is, of course, accelerating the logistic intelligence and accelerating the deployment of the zero-emission heavy-duty trucks, and with a range of more than 750 kilometers, so that we can dramatically reduce the emission reduction and boost the operational efficiencies of these trucks and fleets. So next slide, please. Okay. Here you can see the partners on the right-hand side. As I said, we have 37 partners from standardization bodies, from the technology providers, universities, research institutes, and etc. In industry, of course, tier 1 suppliers, vehicle manufacturers. And we summarize our objectives in 6 groups, right? The first objective is the development of 3 different type of zero-emission trucks. I think this is also one of the beauty of our project. We are not just focused on the battery trucks, or we are not just focused on the fuel cell trucks. We also consider both of them, and plus the range extender versions, which can be seen something in between. So with a gross vehicle weight more than 40 tons and targeting 750 kilometers. So this is one of the aim, a comprehensive demonstration of these trucks, 3 different type of trucks in different locations, and considering the extreme weather conditions, because one of our pilots, which I will show later on, is on the very north part of the Europe. And the second objective is development and demonstration of the cost-effective modular powertrain components. And to demonstrate this again for 6 months in under real-world conditions, and making the range of 500 kilometers. So this is our second objective. The third one, which I think links us with the, H2-Accelerate project and the other projects here, is, infrastructures, because we know the importance of the infrastructure, and we are aware of the scarcity of these infrastructures. So together with the development of cost-effective modular and standardized components for powertrain components to reduce the cost and increase the efficiency of these trucks, we are also trying to develop and demonstrate grid-friendly multi-energy stations, and which is also including the fast charging capability and fast charging protocols, the fast refueling protocols, which I will come back later on to this topic. And then we have the fourth one, which links which enables us to seamlessly integrate these zero-emission trucks into the fleets, because we know that there's a need for some of the tools that needs to be developed to enable this. And the fifth objective was, boosting the digitalization and the logistic intelligence, again, in the scope of ESCALATE project. And here we have 5 demonstrator vehicles, with 4 of them with physical implementation throughout Europe. And we are going to develop 4 trustworthy, secure digital twins of these trucks. And this will enable us not to tune and find the best, the optimum, let's say, parameters during the operation of the vehicles, but it will also enable us to evaluate or assess the innovations' true values. And the last one is, of course, as we all do here, I believe, and trying to contribute global leadership of the European automotive logistic sector and infrastructure. So next slide, please. You can see the coordinated activities within the scope of the ESCALATE project. We have 5 vehicle manufacturers from different parts of the Europe, and you can see the colored lines that are showing the routes that are selected, which is linked with we have long haul, applications, whereas we also have some regional routes in the scope of the project, and the ones which are selected for the long haul, evaluations are, somehow has a direct link with the TEN-T corridor. So they are selected strategically from this perspective, I should say. And you can see, as I said, one demonstration activity will be carried out in Finland, right? And then this will be a range extender truck, and we will try to evaluate its performance during the harsh weather conditions. And then another one is an electrical, battery electric, but the refrigerator and solar powered, truck from UK, which will be evaluated in the UK, but also in Germany. We have some also cross-border evaluations, which is also quite important, I assume. And this one is for the BMC truck, which will be tested to start the test from the Paris to Munich. And this will be a hydrogen truck, hydrogen. And then we had another one, a battery electric truck, which is from Mercedes, which will be tested between Turkey, Istanbul, and the Bulgaria, Sofia route. And we have also another one, which is together with Ford and Primavera, a refrigerator fuel cell truck, where the route is selected from, based on one of the routes which is, proposed by our partner Primavera. So we have 5 demonstrator vehicles, and we are planning to do more than 500,000 kilometers of tests, 24 months in total under real-world conditions, both encompassing the regional and the cross-border tests. Right. Next slide, please. here you can see the impact that's planned and targeted for the ESCALATE project. I should probably say that we unite 37 partners from the 13 countries because we really value the importance of the different stakeholders. And we believe with that holistic approach, we can come up with a very, very good solution to the problems of the zero-emission trucks. And we target to achieve 10% increase in the efficiency across the board. We plan to develop standardizable and scalable modular eco-design powertrain components. And we are targeting to offer high-speed charging and refueling solutions to support the infrastructure's needs of the zero-emission heavy-duty vehicles, which is pretty obvious. And then bridging the physical and the digital worlds to boost the efficiency and the safety. Plus, of course, we are planning to enable the EU manufacturers and the logistic companies to respond to these cost-effective and environmental solutions and then increase their market uptake 10% and boost economic growth and job creation, for that sector, let's say. And we had several outcomes, and I'm pleased to say that we started to reach our targets. One of the first targets for us is to come up with a strategy which is different than the classical approach which the vehicle manufacturers followed until so far, which we called as LCDS strategy, where we don't only consider the performance, but we also see the problem as a multi-objective optimization, and we consider the cost and also sustainability aspects of it. And we define our requirements accordingly, and we define our KPIs accordingly. So it's not just limited with the performance. And then we started to come up with some solutions, as I said before the first review, in terms of the standardized, modular, and scalable components. We are working on the charging and refueling protocols. Again, I'm very pleased to announce that we are targeting 170 grams per second refueling, speed in our project, even though there's a theoretical target of 300 grams per second also, which will be evaluated. But of course, there are some limitations to reach to this target in real world. And then we started to, build up, and soon we will roll out our digital twins, which will be functioning from different perspectives, which makes the life of the, vehicle manufacturers plus the operators easy, hopefully. And then we started to come up with some of the AI-based fleet management solution stacks. We already come up with some TCO-based calculations, which has a dual end user, which I will talk a little bit on. And then we are working on our for pilots, and we are working on the LCA and TCO plus the lucrative business models, which will be based on the findings of these two. Next slide, please. Yeah. So within, just to explain a bit more the ESCALATE approach, especially from the infrastructure perspective. So how did we approach the problem? Is first of all, we approached the problem by, approach the issue by identifying the problem and what is the, what will bring the success. And we define definitely the success and the mass deployment of the trucks, as I believe all agree, relies on the availability and the efficiency of the supporting infrastructure. And right now, I think there's a hidden, cost behind these. And we also look at this deeply with the tool which we developed. And I'm very pleased to say that this will be partially open tool, and it will be web-based. So whoever would like to, do some initial evaluations, they could be able to go to the ESCALATE website and make use of it. And here with this tool, we started to do some analysis in terms of, what is the importance of the infrastructure, because we believe that these are the overlooked components until so far, because the main focus was mainly on the vehicle itself rather than the infrastructure. Next slide, please. Then, of course, we identify the gaps, right? And also we had so many industrial, discussions with the industrial partners, thanks to all of them, right? And we saw that the infrastructure investments, right, needs to be comprehensively understood and well reflected to the total cost of the vehicle itself. There are some initial calculations which shows that for the whole lifetime of a vehicle, the TCO cost the cost of the infrastructure can influence a single vehicle around 1 million euro for its lifetime. So this number can change based on the technology, of course, right? Because there are some numbers which is also mentioned in the literature around 1.5 million euros and etc. But it is quite important because the vehicle is not just, for the fleet operator's perspective, it's not just the cost of the vehicle for sure. It is the operational cost as well. So you should consider the OPEX together with the CAPEX to make these, to increase the adoption rate of these vehicles in the fleets. So this is one of the key findings based on the tool we developed together with our partners and based on the discussions which we had until so far. So we understood that there should be a tool which enables the policymakers or the fleet operators or the vehicle developers to have something which makes them to inform decisions, which can give some realistic, quantifiable values to be able to, make this a reality. Okay, so next slide, please. And based on, as I said, the literature, the industry discussions, and the TCO analysis, which we carried out so far, we know that there's a huge need for the robust infrastructure investment, right? And this is exactly contracting with this upfront cost of the vehicles. And the second one is the reduction of the complexities, right, in the design and deploying these infrastructures. So they should have some kind of a standardized and modular architecture. And the stakeholder coordination is quite important. We believe the government support the strategic planning because we discussed this again and then it's a clear need. And we also realized that the importance of the considering infrastructure costs in the TCO, as I mentioned earlier on, and of course, planned and coordinated investments rather than, scattered investments. Right? And tools regarding to carry out some analysis. And we believe this will facilitate or the mass deployment of the adoption of the zero-emission heavy-duty vehicles. So right now, as I said earlier on, we come up with a tool thanks to all ESCALATE partners. Because we just didn't rely on what the literature, what the academic studies are. We discussed this with the real needs, based on the real needs of the, industrial partners, mainly the logistic operators I meant here. And then we come up with a tool that enables us to have a more holistic approach and to identify the real gaps in this. So next slide, please. And we saw that the critical need for strategic investments, as I said earlier on, and this driving the data-driven decision making is also quite important from our perspective. Of course, the solution is to have a tool, right, which is user-friendly, easy to use, and gives actual numbers to make some informed decisions and accelerate the, of course, adoption rate of these. And plus, we are also developing some additional tools which enables the fleet operators to plan their, charging and refueling strategies and to find the optimum routes in order to increase the productivity time of these fleets. Okay, so next slide. Yes, thank you. And that's the, just a conclusion of what I said. We establish a harmonization framework, that incorporates not only the technological advancements, but also implements the standardized norms. We also did this. We plan further activities. Of course, we are at the, halfway, even less than halfway of the ESCALATE project. We are planning some training sessions and workshops on standardization potentials because we also believe the importance of the standardization activities here with the leadership of Dean colleagues from Germany. And then we develop fast refueling protocols. And we believe that this enables really the, seamless integration and, adoption rate, because as I said earlier on, this will increase the operational productivity of the fleets. We will continue to build cost-effective mobile stations together with our partners. And we also explore as I said, we don't just explore the, fixed, but we also explore the mobile stations and contribute to the policies based on our findings. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ahu, for the presentation. It was quite interesting what you're doing in ESCALATE project. And in the meantime, we have already received 4 questions for the panelists. You can either reply in written, or we can keep some of the questions for the end during the panel discussion. It's your choice. Now we are gonna have our last presentation for today by Dr. Engineer Adrian Valverde Mateo from Primafrio. Adrian is going to present the ZEFES project and their participation as Primafrio in the project, while he will give a more user perspective, so the point of view of a transport operator. So we wanted to represent like the side of the supply, the research, but also the industry, the transport operators in this panel. Adrian, the floor is yours. And
hello, good afternoon. My name is Adrian Valverde. First of all, I wanted to thank you, IRU-POLIS, for the invitation. For us, it's a pleasure taking the lead on this side of the meeting. As Ted already presented, so Primafrio, I think it's a well-known company in Europe. We are based in Spain, south of Spain, where we mainly are very close to the farmers, and some other producers of fruits, vegetables, and some other foods. And our main target is to manage a fleet over 3,000 trucks, which is a large fleet for temperature control. All of the trucks are refrigerated, so it's an added complication to the existing transport mode, because you have also to consider the power that you need for decarbonize the Frigo trailer. And then I will briefly explain what is our contribution within the ZEFES project. As Ahu already presented, we are also in the ESCALATE project, so we are in 2 of the 3 projects of these calls for the European Commission. If you go to the next slide, 2 next slides, please. So the main contribution that we are doing in the ZEFES project is to analyze what are the milestones and the barriers that we have for operating in 27 countries as we do today. So we have a presence over of the trucks in all of the countries of the European Commission. And since we have a decarbonization plan and a transition energy plan for the fleet, we are looking after the way of doing it in an effective, cost-effective way, and not losing profitability. And what is the main target of the company? Be supplying the service and the chain of goods that we are transporting, not losing punctuality, not losing service, not losing any client because of bringing some zero-emission trucks. And you know, these PEPs and fuel cell electric vehicles have limited range. And we, over the 60 years that our company have been working in Europe, we have managed the logistics for all the clients, because at some point it's a headache for them looking after the logistics and taking all the pallets arrangement for the different countries that they operate. We are also now introducing ourselves into the infrastructure. This is something new for operator like us. So far, I think no one wanted to be part of the infrastructure, or at least having something to do with the infrastructure. But now things are coming to different way of designing the future. For this, we expect to having a quick escalate up of the ramp up of the vehicles, and reducing the cost for this kind of vehicles. If we go to the next slide, please. We see that on the one hand, we have a large data lake of data over the years that we've been operating. And the good thing about this project is that we are capable of designing what is the best route or the best way of not losing profitability within the driving times, because you know at some point you have to manage and tackle trucks as if they were machines operating 24/7. And for this, we want to create real-world demonstrations within a mapping of the infrastructure, MCS chargers, or high-power chargers, as well as hydrogen refueling stations across Europe, but working, not just having a prototype of electrolyzers and chargers that when you are going to refill sometimes fails, because if this happens, then we cannot operate the trucks. And then comparing all these technologies with digital twin models. So basically what we do is compare the TCO, the total cost of ownership, for comparing diesel, LNG, liquefied natural gas, battery electric vehicles, fuel cell electric vehicles, new fuels, new energy vectors like HVO, B100 or some others, and then create the perfect model for each route or for each client. And this is where the challenge is going to be, because at the end, different clients or different customers that we have in the 16 portfolio of Primafrio have a different transition plan for the future. So we are capable of today adapting ourselves to their plan and committed to a certain reduction of CO2 and some other greenhouse gases of the protocols that we have today. So going to next slide, we can see that these project developments and the good thing of these projects, because what we hate of doing projects is just drawing some papers and having the academic results, but not practical results, which in the end is what is coming, is what it takes about, because it makes no sense to have some digital twins or something theoretical, but in the end not testing in the real life assessment. And this is what we are going to do. So for this side of the project demonstration, we have involved ourselves into all different work packages that the projects compound, from the digital twin models, from the different vehicles, as I said before, and the infrastructure for creating the best optimization, and then having results, tangible results that we can show everybody, and then help the European Commission to allocate resources and funds for putting the TEN-T corridors into place. Going to the next slide, please. So this project, you see, already brings to the table a webinar like today. So from the one hand, we have the truck manufacturers. On the other hand, we have the suppliers, the energy suppliers. You see that most of them are already well known because they are quite involved in the strategy for the decarbonization and for the energy transition. And on the other hand, we have the shippers and retailers that are testing or have some interest of using all the ecosystems, available for this kind of electromobility. In the part of the research and infrastructure, it's important to remark that that the regulatory and research and development centers are already working hand in hand with the ecosystem, because at some point it's needed to bring to the table academic researchers for dodging the project within the best performance when it comes to the test and the testing projects that we have. So this is a large project. I think it's one of the most important within the other ones, and we are taking it very seriously, because one of the problem that we have encountered, if we go to next slide, is the infrastructure, especially in some points of Europe. So our involvement in the different work packages, as I said, is not just testing and validating the technology, but we have to create some tools and digital twins for the existing business model that we have in the company, because at some point we know that the business model is going to change. We have to be prepared, and this is the most complicated when it comes to a trucking company, because all the processes are adapted to work within the same range or same autonomy. But when you add some more complication into the equations, you see that you have to take care of different things that are more important even than the truck, like the driver, because the driver will have to remain at resting areas, or we have to have different itineraries for working, and this is what is going to be the challenge. Going to next slide, we are going now to enter into the corridors. So if you see the green line is Primafrio work package, the use case. So the target of the company is real test demonstration. So we are loading strawberries in Huelva, the south of Spain. And these strawberries, is delicate product, because it gets spoiled really fast. So you have to manage very carefully within the temperatures and within the transit time for delivering. Then we are going to go to the borders in the south of France, Le Boulou. We are going to have their intermodal train for going up to Benelux to the Bettenburg, and then we are going to drive up to Sweden in again new corridors within a new intermodality as well, because we have to take the ferry, which is a new added complication for, as I said before, within the regulatory, bringing electric trucks or fuel electric vehicles into these ferries, and also plugging within the electric for the matching, for the cooling machine in the reefer truck. So going to next slide, we see that this is the clean route for Primafrio. So this is easily to see what is the complication. And as I said before, this is a real test demonstration within the complications. So the first step or the first part of the corridor will be with a Scania truck. This is a truck for electric and fuel cell electric vehicle. And the second part of the corridor will be within Volvo truck, within battery electric vehicles. And now the challenge is to find chargers or to find HRS closer, not more than 600 kilometers for feeding up these trucks. Going to next slide, please. So for this project, we have identified at least 5 different points in the Iberian Peninsula in Spain, and this is the target. The target is to have available hydrogen and enough power for the chargers for MCS in Murcia, which you see here is where in the east side of the peninsula, which you see the where the headquarters are. In the south, we already have this solved because we have the largest depot infrastructure for electric trucks, and we have 10 chargers accounting a power of over 2,500 kilowatts, so 2.5 megawatts. But the rest of infrastructure is where the challenge come, and this is why I speak with all the regulatory and electric and energetic companies. Going to next slide. We have the second. Next slide, please. We have next step within the Volvo corridor, and will be fuel electric double man, of course, for being quicker when deliveries come, and with the added complication of the ferry, as I said before. If we go to next slide, please, we'll see that if we want to transit all this truck, as in the picture it reflects, there is enough work for bringing infrastructure and fuels into the real world. And many thanks for joining today. I think we have some roundtable afterwards, and I will be able to reply to some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Thank you very much to all 3 of you for the presentations. I think it was quite interesting to see what its project and its type of actors in this effort of decarbonizing is doing. Now we have some questions for our presenters, but in the meantime, I can see that there are some questions in the chat. If any of you wants to reply at any point, please feel free to do. I'm just trying to stop sharing so that we can have a better overview. Okay, so Adrian, like it's quite impressive what you are trying to do in ZEFES, in the ZEFES project, and as I'm involved in this project, and we have worked a lot into identifying infrastructure. What were the biggest challenges you had in finding the infrastructure, and whether you think that it's possible for somebody to run in an operational mode and not in a testing mode such vehicles in such big use cases, such long use cases as the one you showed before?
Thank you. As I said, one of the main challenges were the cost, and I was always referring to the cost because of the lack of scalability that these trucks and infrastructure have today. as long as more players and more transport companies and some other users come, the cost will be reduced. And making you know, this kind of conversation with our clients, trying to involve them, because at some point they all want to have green energy trucks or zero emission trucks. But in the end, nobody wants to get involved in the finance in the finance of this kind of mobility, and this is an added restriction, because at some point some people say, well, you are charging trucks within renewable and solar panels, then this will be cheaper, but in fact it's not cheaper. You have to spend much money within the infrastructure, bringing transformation centers, bringing solar panels, bringing chargers, and first steps are more expensive than within the when we have more trucks and more people using the infrastructure. For sure, will be cheaper, but we have to work and elaborate in the first steps.
You have given me like 3 passes, but I will use the first one on the cost. Frank, what is your response to some people saying that hydrogen is expensive, and whether, and if yes, when are we gonna see some parity with diesel?
Yeah, so whether and when, if I would know that, then it would be very good, I think, to hedge already on that future. No, in general, I think it's very difficult for both the truck price and the hydrogen price to have parity very soon. We saw that already with passenger car vehicles, that both for electric and hydrogen cars, that because the scalability is not there yet, with electric cars is getting there, but gradually to become closer to the price of a combustion engine. I think that it's important also to understand in the next couple of years what the effect will have on conventional diesel fuels, what the impact will be on increased taxation and penalties, or not being able to use certain routes. So that needs to be quantified in the future price of hydrogen, I think. And then, of course, from 2026, also the effect of ETS for road transport will have a big role in various countries. We saw already this year in Germany the effect of the increased toll from January 1st, which makes it, I mean, it's not easy to get it break even, but for electric trucks to become a break even after 4 to 5 years, because then you are compensating the extra cost with the reduction of mount or toll. And that's also what you saw basically a couple of years ago already. The reason why Hyundai went with the trucks to Switzerland, because of the super high toll that you pay there, you would already be break even after a couple of years.
Yeah, that's why definitely the competitiveness of zero emission hydrogen vehicles is becoming much more and more.
So unfortunately, I cannot give exactly a good answer on when we expect that parity will be there, but it's more on what kind of effects will be developed by member states in the next couple of years.
But if you see the growth in the side of the demand and the predictions that have already been, of course, CO2 standards is one of the, let's say, enablers of zero emission vehicles. How do you see that demand progressing, and do you expect the hydrogen business to become, let's say, break even at some point after 2030, in 2030, or even before?
Yeah, so a couple of answers to that question. One is, of course, that's also the main reason why both the trucks still need quite a lot of subsidies and also the infrastructure, because without those subsidies, it's impossible to get the train started, basically. Also, we have to keep in mind that currently for hydrogen, it's almost not produced green at the moment. It's still based on steam reforming, so about 80 to 85% is still waste from chemical plants or produced on a zero emission way. And that's of course also where there are a lot of projects under development to ensure that it is produced the molecules are produced green, and that also will have an effect on the implementation of RED III, the Renewable Energy Directive, which helps us also to get compensation for this green hydrogen and therefore becoming it at least closer to the parity of a diesel truck.
I will go to Ahu now with a question like about the project, the ESCALATE project. The project is testing like ZEFES, both fuel cell electric vehicles and battery electric vehicles. But you referred before to mobile stations. What other solutions is the project promising to test in the infrastructure side? Are you testing existing infrastructure? You said mobile. Do you have any advancements in the project in that front?
Yeah, no, actually, we are not just evaluating the existing infrastructures in the scope of the ESCALATE. We are also, adding on the top of this. For example, the one which we are building in Finland is the one which is not a megawatt charging system. We are upgrading to this into a megawatt charging system based on the needs of the users and also needs of the grid operators and etc. So we are trying to be as grid friendly as possible. Right, so this is one of the things which we are doing together with our Finnish partners there, and again, which is selected in a strategically selected, location, which is close to TEN-T corridor. And another one is regarding the stationary one, which is a multi-energy station, because we believe that there will be a need because of these two. And even if you just assume that you will have a fuel cell truck, but then there will be a battery pack there, and you need to charge this battery pack. So at the end of the day, I believe there will be a huge need for the multi-energy stations rather than the single one. And we are evaluating this, fast charging and refueling protocols there, and which is beyond the state of art, as I said earlier on. And of course, there are some technological compatibility is needed from the vehicle side. It's not just writing the protocol. And we are also exploring the security aspects, which is quite important for the fleet operators, as I think is aware of. So these are the things from the stationary perspective. From the mobile stations perspective, we already come across with the regulatory challenge because we are targeting 700 bar and to make the process efficient and high speed. But for a mobile station, you can't go over 450 already. So we are going to also, try to come up with some kind of recommendations in order to overcome these issues, because we also believe the benefit of the mobile stations within the scope of ESCALATE, considering the fact that we are already having some challenges, as far as I know, in both projects regarding the scarcity of the infrastructure.
That's true, and not only the scarcity, but also the availability of infrastructure for heavy-duty vehicles, because the size, dimensions of the stations, charging or refueling stations in some cases are not adequate for trucks. And I'm catching what you're saying in the meantime, and you said about updating an existing charger to a megawatt charger. This is one of the technological advancements that the industry is expecting in the next couple of years, so that we can see how faster and more efficiently electric trucks can work. What other trends and technological advancements do you expect to see? You work at a university, you're working with technology a lot. So what are what other trends do you expect to come up in the next years that will improve and will make more affordable zero emission vehicles?
Yeah, as in the vehicle side, we are targeting the modularity, right? So that it will enable us the power up and power down the stations based on the needs. So first of all, I should say the modularity is one of the key things from our perspective. And of course, standardization as usual, and plus the open protocols which we are targeting, right? So we believe these will plus the energy management with the onboard and offboard components will enable us to reduce the cost of the infrastructure, and then also mass deployment of the trucks. But also we shouldn't forget, as Frank mentioned earlier on, the renewable energies side as well. So we already discussed this recently again with one of our energy providers, and then even though if there won't be a direct connection, we can also explore the green certifications, right? So that this will also reduce, we believe, the cost of the infrastructure.
That's perfect. And Frank, on the side of hydrogen, what else new can we expect? Any advancement that you're expecting?
In what sense do you mean with
Any technological advancement or trend that we can expect that will improve? You refer to green hydrogen, but any other advancement in the coming years?
So from a more regulatory perspective, so we have RED III. The issue is now that the member states still do not have the process of what it locally means exactly. So that's one thing, and there we hopefully get big improvement in the coming months, basically. And when it comes to the technology, that's why we are working a lot with the truck OEMs to ensure that the technology that we put in the stations also is aligned with the expectation on the size of the tanks, the refueling protocols, because that's still in an early phase. We have refueling protocols for passenger cars, but the way how that's now being developed in new versions, it's not really my specialty, but I sometimes get the explanation from the technical guys, and then I'm getting quite dizzy on what they expect the future to hold when it comes to the amount of hydrogen that's going to be dispensed for trucks. So definitely we are working quite heavily with the truck OEMs and the technology providers to ensure that we have that ready and also make it scalable.
On another note, Ahu said that they had some problems identifying adequate infrastructure for refueling and charging the trucks at the ESCALATE project. Same for ZEFES. The 108 charge stations that TIL is going to develop, are they all going to be high-duty vehicles friendly?
Yeah.
What will be
the requirement of the European Commission for under the so-called CEF-T ATIF funding project? They have to be compliant with both light commercial vehicle or light duty vehicles and heavy duty vehicles. But the focus of TIL is really to deploy the stations for heavy duty trucks. And of course, also passenger cars and light duty vehicles are welcome. But the key is really to develop them also with the accessibility for trucks and not for passenger cars.
Perfect. Adrian, back to you. What are Primafrio's plans for low and zero emission vehicle investment, and how are they going to be impacted by the energy infrastructure development progress in the next coming years?
Well,
what is your strategy?
The energy transition plan for Primafrio. First steps were to reach 2030 within zero emission trucks. The reality behind that is that it won't be possible because of the infrastructure. So we move our strategy to 2040, which is 10 years ahead of the European Commission target. And the reality as well is that today we can provide our customers within different services. We've been the first trucking company in Spain, bringing the first 105 FEVs, battery electric vehicles of Volvo FH Electric. These trucks obviously cannot travel to European countries to go abroad for them back because of the infrastructure. But today they are doing the first mile, which is picking up some fruits, some vegetables, some products in the surroundings of Primafrio, and then some deliveries of last mile distribution, which is very interesting as well. These projects that we are involved in are mainly for boosting our strategy and for pressing a little bit and bringing to the table some more awareness of the needs that we have as a transport logistic company. Because if we don't do it, then some others will do. And we have to promote the Spanish strategy alongside within the European Commission targets, and put in practice all these corridors, green corridors, connecting all different countries. So it makes no sense. So having, for example, Germany, which is I think one of the pioneers using zero-emission vehicles, and an electrifying strategy in these countries, and then leaving aside some other countries because they are not capable of bringing infrastructure. So it's important to create the whole ecosystems for all countries.
Okay, so you think that Spain and the south of Europe will expect a gap between more advanced and less advanced countries?
I think so, and this is quite surprising because in Spain, especially in the south of Spain, is where you can find more trucks per kilometer, and this is something that it's quite the opposite of to the northern countries, where you obviously have trucks, but if you have analytics for where the trucks are today in different areas, you see that this is a red point in the map because there is real needs of bringing this. And the renewable installations such as solar panels and some other solutions are today real in these areas because of the radiation, solar radiation, and some other things. So
it's true. But let's hope that the FIR goals will be reached and Spain and all Europe will follow. But what can a business like Primafrio can do to accelerate the growth of alternative fuels infrastructure, and what you can expect from the public sector as well in terms of incentives, investments, etc.?
Well, as I explained before, I think the first steps into this energy transition, it's more difficult because you don't have knowledge, you don't have the investments allocated in place for bringing these trucks. So they have resources, they have funds for bringing this, making this a reality. There is an amortization period that all companies can support into these financial plans. But we obviously need this first aid from the European Commission if they want us to reach the targets, because if not, it will be not possible. Customers are not willing to pay, society is not willing to pay. So no one is willing to pay unless you bring the green taxonomy, and then you started to punish all those ones that are not committing to a transition plan, and making some benefits for the ones that are investing. So now there is a lack of regulatory terms into this field.
Ahu, by the way, today you just give me passes and I'm just catching phrases and so Ahu, ESCALATE has developed any recommendations, or you as University of Surrey, of course, or regulate for updated regulations or standardizations on zero-emission heavy-duty vehicles and, of course, infrastructure.
Yeah. As I said, we are, as ESCALATE Consortium, we are very keen to contribute to both aspects, from the regulatory aspects and from the standardization aspects. And then from the regulatory aspects, as I said, we are trying to do a proper quantitative analysis so that we could be able to come up with really, good recommendations, which will help the, boosting of the zero-emission trucks or vehicles. And from the standardization perspective, as I said, from the very first day of this project, when we are even during the write-up phase, we know the importance of it. We considered standardization from different perspective, but in general terms, not from the standardization of the components, but in general, the standards make, coming up with some standards with the support of our German colleagues, partners, which is their DIN, right? We establish a harmonization framework because we first would like to see what is the, standardization landscape looks like. And then we conduct some surveys with the partners. We identify more than 100 documents, 620 documents actually, which is related to the standardization of the electrics, hydrogen, safety, sustainability, etc. And then when we carry out some analysis, we identify some gaps already, which is quite challenging, which we try to come up with some suggestions. We are discussing constantly in one of our work package of ESCALATE. And even though we identified to come up with a solution is also something which is challenging, I should say. But the good part is we find this out, and also we recognize the internal, the need for the internal harmonization of these standards, because 2/3 of these standards are having international origins, right? And like ISO and IEC, and we believe that there's the need for the internalization of this harmonization of these standards at the Europe, from the Europe side as well. And we are, continuing our, of course, contributions to this field. But what I can say in a nutshell is we identify the gaps. We discuss with both technology, tier 1 suppliers and the vehicle manufacturers, these, and plus we try to come up with some kind of a harmonized solution together with the other international standardization bodies.
Thank you very much, Ahu. I'll get back to Frank, and I want to ask him, because sometimes we can see hydrogen refueling stations in close to cities, but then the AFIR, I think, has a focus on highways.
Basically, I feel focused indeed on 10T, so the main road network in Europe, plus the urban nodes. So, but in our case, of course, it's a good requirement to have that because the 10T network is also our scope. And we're really, with all the new projects that we are currently are working, is looking to harbors, looking to logistic centers, or also collaborating with our partners or the total energy sites like AS24 to ensure that we are parallel to the traditional logistic hubs.
But what's the optimal use of hydrogen that you foresee? Is it going to be only very long haul, or is it going to be a combination of different transport assignments?
So currently, and that's also what you saw with passenger cars, is that a lot can be covered by using electric trucks. But there's also a very specific target group that cannot only use a electric truck, and for the time being, will be the only solution will be hydrogen for them. Then in the next couple of years, you will have you will get to the situation that you will not be able to charge all your fleets at the same time, or you will not have the power capacity at a location when you have a huge amount of trucks, and then hydrogen can also be an alternative. So there will be two phases. The first phase where hydrogen will be having a limited role because you can cover quite a lot with electricity. And then at some point in time when a huge amount of trucks will be electric, yeah, then it becomes a better alternative to have also hydrogen trucks in your fleet.
Perfect, perfect. One last question to Adrian, and that's on the issue of charging an electric truck. There is a big debate on whether charging time is considered as working, driving, or resting time. What is your recommendation on that, and what are your expectations concerning megawatt chargers, as we discussed before?
I think this is one of the biggest. I think this is one of the biggest challenges for a transport company because of the low range of these trucks. Within a diesel truck, we can cover more than 3,800 kilometers, not refilling. So this is a lot of kilometers autonomy. Within an electric truck, we can cover 300 kilometers, which is 10 times less than a diesel truck. And therefore, the effort that you have to do for the optimization of routes and everything is 10 times what you should do for a diesel truck. And this has something to do with within the optimization of the loads and unloads, and the driver resting times and the driver availability times. And this is a complexity because some point all drivers wants to do their job done before the day ends, and sometimes this is not possible because you have to be stopping or asking for available charger in the middle of nowhere, and you have to have different permissions or different cards or different power for filling up the truck. Bring some more complexities into the equation, and this is why we have involved ourselves into the infrastructure. All of our facilities having our own infrastructure and our own energy generation for cutting the times of charging, and therefore having a easier way of working with these trucks. Regarding the MCS, this is a very expensive charger. But this is not a problem of the not only of the cost, but also of the power that you need for filling this charger, because 1,000 or at least 1,000 kilowatts, it's too much power to put it into a charger, and not expecting that everything is going to result in a positive feedback. I mean, even with lower chargers, with lower power chargers, you encounter some problems when it comes to charging, because sometimes the vehicles is not getting the maximum capacity of the charger, or the other way around, and it's difficult. But I think this is something to come. By the time it comes, we'll solve a lot of problems into the logistics. For the ZEFES project, we have some MCS planning for deployment in the corridors that I just presented. So we will unveil the results of the MCS.
So yes, as you said, Adrian, it's a lot of power, and I will quote here somewhere I read that it's equal to 1,200 apartments and homes and houses.
Mm.
So
Yes.
you can understand that one plug is a small town
Yes. Then
equal to power. So that's also challenging. Okay, I think it's about time to wrap up. Thank you very much, everybody, for your presentations. Thank you very much for attending this this webinar, this discussion. The goal goes to become some kind of discussion between different partners instead of just having structured presentations and not any further information than that. Again, I would like to go back to all the three webinars IRU and Polis organized during the last 3 months. We had a monthly rendezvous, a monthly meeting on one specific topic. I think we did quite an excellent work in bringing together the industry, OEMs, every partner in this path to decarbonizing. Lots of challenges, lots of good discussions, lots of good insights, lots of good projects. From my side, I've been involved in the 3 ZEFES H2-Accelerate tracks and H2-Haul, and I can reassure you that there's a lot of work in front of us. In the meantime, ZEFES is going to continue working with Adrian. We're gonna make some progress. We will be more than glad to give you other updates. So if you get into the project website, you can definitely contact us or join the newsletter and get more updates. The same for the H2-Accelerate Tracks project. Frank and myself are part of the team and will give you future updates if you're part of the IRU family, or if you're part of the Polis family. Again, Next-Track and ESCALATE projects are going to continue delivering, and I'm sure my colleagues from the Polis side will give you future updates. From my side, thank you very much for attending again. Thank you very much to the presenters, and we will be more than happy to see you in future initiatives.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ted.
Thank